Hi, everyone. Today I'm so excited to be joined by a woman who is described in the world media as an industry giant for the plant-based sector. She's been Forbes magazine's one of 50 women over 50 who are changing the world. And she's also known in our circles as the Queen of Vegan Food. Chef, entrepreneur, author, extraordinary human being, Miyoko Shina. Hi, Miyoko. In the last couple of years, I'm very well aware that you've been through a very complex and challenging time. I just want to know if you would share with us the lessons that you've learned, both as a woman and certainly as an entrepreneur in a very competitive business world.
Thank you. That's a great question. And I think anytime you go through some sort of turmoil, and we all hear there's light at the end of the tunnel. When you're in that tunnel, when you're in that turmoil, you have no idea how you're going to end up. And I have to say that I am at this point very, very fortunate. I feel grateful that I went through this experience. And the reason is because I've learned not only so much more about myself, but I dedicated the last year and a half to studying more deeply about the food system and economics. I read a lot of books on both subjects. I've learned a lot about the food system and how the industrialized natural food system has rapidly changed the world over the last 100 years or so. I read about economics, and I have also talked to dozens and dozens of other women entrepreneurs who have gone through their own issues to try to understand, what does this all mean? And I'm at a place where right now I have learned so much about all of this that I think I had blinders on before. What I've learned is that when you are selling something, you do not have clarity of the truth. You cannot see what is true because you're so busy trying to sell something. So I am so glad that I'm no longer selling anything, and I can really become a true fighter for justice and equity in the food system and for women entrepreneurs. So that's really where I've landed. And I don't think I could have gotten there had I not been, kicked out of my own company. And it sounds really, really weird, but I'm actually grateful for it. I am actually at a very, very good place right now. And I feel like I've got my work cut out to try to create more justice and to create awareness of what we need to do to fix some of the problems that technology and capitalism have caused in the food system.
I think that's an incredible description of the journey you've been on, and lots of food for thought, if you pardon the pun, in your response. But the extra learning that you've done, clearly it's really crystallize your views on fresh plant-based diets.
We're at a point where we think technology can fix everything. And we talk about the climate change, we talk about people in underdeveloped countries that are undergoing famine or starvation, and we think that we as a westernized society can go into these places and fix their problems when in fact we are the ones that actually created it. And so importance of going back to a whole foods plant-based diet is all about the fact that we already have the answers. So wherever you are in the world, the way we were eating until the last 100 years is what we should be doing. We should be going back and learning from the wisdom of indigenous peoples, the wisdom of the native peoples in any land that are predominantly eating a plant-based diet. I just talked to a man from Algeria who said he moved to the United States, got a scholarship to Cornell. He went there and he couldn't believe that they were serving meat for breakfast because he said in Algeria, the predominant diet is a whole foods plant-based diet. You might have meat a few times a year. It was a luxury. So you never thought about meat as the foundation of your diet. Another thing that is so important about a whole foods plant-based diet I want to mention isn't just the food itself. It's the fact that the food was a celebration of society and community. It was what brought us together around the table to dine. And it was people, mothers and cooks and families and friends coming together and vegetables and whatever, and coming around the table and making food together that brought us together and created human society. If food comes from a laboratory and scientists are now in control of what we eat, what will that do to humanity? What will it do to the soul of society? So food is so much more complex than just a way to get your nutrients. It's a way that we come together and create community.
I mean, food is culture, really, isn't it? I think it was you that said to me, food is visceral. Change food culture is so complex and so challenging. So what you've just described, you could be accused of being a bit utopian in your view, Miyoko. How do we go from where we are at the moment with this technology and the god of technology, if you like, governing so much of what we do? How do we go from there to the simple, more, I would argue, more wholesome, more community that you're advocating for?
Lisa, that's a really, really great question. I have to be honest, I don't have all the answers. But I do know that more and more people are expressing this view. And in the United States, we have what's called a loneliness epidemic. The Surgeon General actually said that 50% of the population of the United States is lonely. They're lacking community. People don't have families. We don't have extended families. There was a time when you'd have 3 generations in a household, for example, or church, or there was a tribe. People don't belong to tribes anymore. And so this is a problem. Food is simply a way to get sustenance, and you grab something to go and you eat in front of your computer, and everyone's doing that on their own. And we're living these virtual lives. Is that what we really want? So I think there is going to be, at some point, people are going to start waking up. And I really do believe that at some point, people are going to say enough is enough. We already have the know-how. Let's stop pushing a technological capitalist agenda on the people. The industrialized and industrialized agriculture has impacted more than just how people eat, but it's impacted farmers as well. Because there was a time we had many, many more farmers than we actually have. They were small whole farmers. They were growing a variety of crops. The biodiversity is so much more than what we have right now. And they were feeding their community. They were feeding their families, their communities. And to be in business as a farmer today, you can only survive if you grow commodity crops that are sold to one of the biggest corporations in the world. And so you're growing soy or corn or this sort of thing. And in order to go back in time and to be able to really sustain our communities, we need these farmers. We need to support farmers as well as communities.
I've noticed your terminology that you've coined a new phrase, inspirational activism. Tell us about what that's all about.
Yeah, so a lot of people think activism is a sort of angry thing where you're shouting in people's face. It's very dogmatic, a lot of indoctrination, or you're walking around with a sign, and it's about being something. And unfortunately, it sort of doesn't work. And so a lot of people abandoned activism in the vegan sector, and they said, well, it doesn't work, so we're going to just make alternative foods that will convince people to eat them. And then they're finding that that's not working either. What we have to do is touch people's hearts. We have to inspire them. We have to convince people that they can be their best selves. So inspirational activism is really all about getting people excited about something, to let them know that they are powerful beings that have the ability to make change themselves. And you can't do that by yelling at them. You have to do that by sharing your love, your enthusiasm with others. And a good place to start is something simply like inviting people over for a fantastic meal and having a wonderful conversation where you can sort of start to nudge them, let them know that they can have great impact. Inspirational activism doesn't happen overnight, but it's something that makes somebody feel good about this. And when someone feels good about those, they feel like they can act much more. I'm going to give you a really good example. I'm going to talk about the sanctuary that we have, Rancho Compasión. It's a farmed animal sanctuary here that I started about 9 years ago. And what we started about a year ago was a youth program. We started this kids program. We have kids from kindergarten through college coming here. And we have a program called Friends and Food. We have an organic garden as well. The kids come here for after school, summer camp, and lots of school field trips. And they learn to take care of our special needs animals, the animals that are, let's say, they have a bad leg or they have some issue and and the kids learn to take care of them. And then they go and they work in the garden and they plant vegetables and they harvest them and they learn to cook from them. And they learn who is a friend and what is food. Now, let's remember that a lot of kids today have no idea where the food comes from. They think it comes from the store or from a package. So what we're doing is we're empowering the kids to become caretakers, to become nurturers. So they feel like wow, I took care of June the sheep and I feel so good now. And they learn to grow their own vegetables. And, they're 7, 8, 9 years old. And they learn that they can be in charge of their own food system or their own food. And so we're inspiring the kids. We never talk about veganism. Everything we serve is vegan, but we talk about the love and compassion towards animals, and it speaks to their hearts. And the kids are so excited about what we're doing here. They love coming here, and they leave stronger because they feel that they are powerful and they can do something to help another.
That's a wonderful story, Miyoko. And yesterday I was visiting a local vegan market, and a couple of the stallholders were telling me they're about to embark on a program very similar to the one that you've just described. And I was telling them a bit about your work in this area. So I might put them in touch with you, and if they need some advice and some enthusiastic support into the future. This is such a huge topic that sometimes my brain wants to explode just trying to tackle one part of it. And I think what you've done today is you've put into very clear terms how each of us can strive to make some changes which are very real changes and actually change you and your life, as well as help your family and your community. And I think Rancho Compassion is a fantastic initiative. Thank you. But moreover, is there anything that you wanted to add before we say goodbye in California?
Well, it's been delightful to talk to you, Lisa. I would just like everyone to really think about the food system, what you can do individually, and not have to rely on somebody else to feed you. But what can you do? Get back in your kitchen, learn to cook. It's wonderful. There's so many resources out there.
Beautiful. Miyoko, thank you so much. And I hope that listening to your inspirational activism changes the minds of 2 or 3 Australians when they listen to this. Thank you so much.